I'm Charlotte. I work at Ansarada. I'm a product manager there. If you haven't heard of Ansarada, we are a software company and we build a platform to help companies optimize their business and get ready for material events. Our platform also connects companies to relevant advisors and investors. So we have 12 product teams that are split between Sydney and Vietnam. And our product teams consume a design system, or our product code bases consume a design system called ACE, and that stands for Ansarada Common Element. So that includes our UI components and design tokens and various assets. And to give you an idea, ACE was launched about 3 years ago, so we've had it for quite a while. And tonight I'm going to talk to you about that design system, so we'll talk a bit of our journey, how we identified some challenges throughout the time in maintaining our system, how we've solved them by applying product thinking, and at the same time I hope you kind of take away some kind of framework or just some kind of idea of how you can apply this to your own design system. Maybe even by the end of tonight I will convince you to become product managers yourself, because this is what happened to me. I started off as a developer on the design system and I didn't even realise I was doing product management on this at the time, but it's kind of this journey was the catalyst for my transition away from coding and into product management. So I'll take you on this journey. I joined Ansarada 18 months ago, as I said, as a front-end developer on ACE, the design system. And before I joined Ansarada, I actually just worked at an agency back in the UK called Clearleft. And I built design systems for clients. So when I worked with the clients and when they're finished, we would embed them into the company and then I'd just go, I'd be like, see ya, I'd go and build the next one. And I just moved from project to project. And it wasn't until I got into like an in-house, like a company with an in-house design system, that I really understood the challenges and what goes into maintaining a design system. So the challenges became pretty clear fairly early on for me. Adoption was low in some of the teams. ACE wasn't being used when it could be. Sometimes when it was used, some of the instances of components were overridden to change some of the styles. So that would impact consistency. So if you've got some instances with a few tweaks and some not, then that's kind of not what the design system is meant to do. We also found that some developers didn't connect or engage with the design system as we hoped they would, or maybe understand the value. And as many product companies probably also experienced, we had to convince the teams to use it, because using the design system came as a time cost to them. They had to put the time into actually consuming it. And that's kind of key, because like without the design system, without adoption, you can't get your goals from the design system if no one's using it. So it's really, really important. And the goals of our design system are to bring consistency across our platform and to improve efficiency and speed of development and design. So in seeing all of this, I went on this mission. I really wanted to figure out how we can try and achieve our goals better. Like I wanted to try and understand the problem in a bit more detail, get a clearer picture of what was going on. And so in order to understand a problem, it requires some discovery. So it usually helps by trying to put a diagnosis together of the current situation. So I set out to answer a few questions. So the first being quite important is, what's the adoption rate of the existing components that we have? What are the overrides? As I said, overrides are like tweaks to the styles, things like that in the CSS. What is the process for users to adopt the system? How satisfied are users with that process and that experience of using the system? Are there any pain points there? So there's quite a few questions. We could ask more. There's a couple of really key ones, so I'll just go into a bit more detail on those. Obviously, adoption is key, as we've said. And so it's really important, and especially when you're making decisions for components. So like if you want to potentially deprecate a component, obviously you're not going to make that decision unless you know whether it's being used or not. So, and it's kind of, if a component's not being used, you want to know why, things like that. And if you want to change a component, you want to know the impact that's going to have. So if you've got you need to know how much is being used across the whole platform. And so to measure adoption, we can search the product code base for instances of components, so that provides some quantitative data on where it's used and how many times. And as part of code searching, I actually paired up with a developer he wrote a script and that gave me a list of all the information I needed. And actually I turned it into a bit of an audit. So I put all of the components on the wall and this is actually in our Vietnam office, because our design system team are based in Sydney. So a lot of our work happens in Sydney. So I thought it'd be a good idea to go and do it in our Vietnam office to get everyone else involved and engage them. And putting on the wall was really, really good because as people walked past, it would sort of spark conversation. People had ideas, they'd like stick post-it notes up and just talk about it and just get involved. And I think that engagement really helped adoption as well. And so to support the code searching and the quantitative data, you can do some surveys. So I asked all the developers which components they know they use and how easy are they to work with, how can they be improved, give some ratings, satisfaction ratings and things like that. And another important thing to look at, I think, in any part of this is to the user's process. So it's really important to sort of know right from the start to the end of the front-end development process for designers, developers, and anyone that uses the design system, because that's where you can see the opportunities for improvement or any problems that exist with it. So I really recommend observing some of the people at work who are using it and just take notes of all the steps involved, look at pain points, things like that. And for us, it was really easy because all of our users are internal. We can just go and sit and chat to them at any time. So that was really good. I even actually went to some of the team's stand-ups, to some of their meetings, just to get any insights to how they work and what their priorities are and things like that. And then you can do some interviews to dig even deeper. You can obviously ask for more detail about what steps are involved in designing and building the front end. I recommend planning the interview beforehand. What's the goal of the interview? What questions do you need to ask? Ask them open questions and get the user talking. I usually find when you ask questions to any customer, they'll just talk for ages, so you can just sit and listen. It's actually really nice. And you don't need to worry about taking notes. You can just record it and you can just listen to it later on and write the notes up later on and just focus on uncovering some key information. So obviously when we carry out interviews, we can compare all of our results and we can look for patterns in usage and things like that. I'd even go as far as creating some user journey maps where you can visualize all the steps that are taken throughout the process to complete a task. So on this one, this is just an example. But you might have the steps going across the top horizontally, and then down here you've got the activity that takes place at each step. So sometimes I find that where there's more activity, there'll be more opportunities. But you see this blue line at the bottom is all where the opportunities lie, and then there's a row above for pain points and things like that. And I think something that's quite important to consider is obviously a lot of us here are developers, designers as well. And it may be this isn't rocket science, I know how a developer works, I'm one myself, but actually unless you are actually every day consuming this system and it's in your process, you really can't know for sure how it's going to work. So it's really important to not make any assumptions on that. It's really important to do this regardless of how much you know about doing the job yourself. So yeah, our research uncovered quite a few pain points and a few reasons for the lack of adoption. It really cleared a few things up for us. Some of the reasons we had for lack of adoption were the technologies being inconsistent. So over time, the technologies in our product code bases had evolved. And we had a really small team, so we hadn't quite evolved the technologies in the design system yet. And so that was a struggle. Maintaining legacy code was a challenge for both our team and the consuming teams. And it caused duplicate work at times, and that's just time consuming, and no one wants that. So that was definitely a really key point there. And another big thing was that most of the component work was carried out by our team. So we had to try and develop all the components, make all the changes, and we had quite a lot of demands coming from our 12 product teams. And we just weren't always able to meet all the deadlines and priorities of those teams. So that kind of led to, if we couldn't deliver it on time, then sometimes teams would just go off and build it themselves and it wouldn't be in the design system. And that made it really hard to track what was out there and what was going in, and obviously missing things for the design system. And we have overseas offices, so sometimes that's hard with communication, so it's really important to make sure that what we communicate about the design system gets across to everyone. So yeah, identifying these reasons was a really big step for us, and gave us a good direction for improving adoption. I know what we needed to do to try and improve this. So our focus for the last 2 quarters has been on improving this, and I think we've done a pretty good job at the moment. Bear with me a second. Yeah. So one of the biggest outcomes of our mission was realising that a living design system is consumed by other teams, and we realised that that's an internal product. So it turned out I'd actually been doing product management for quite a while. Even though I was a developer, I was actually doing that, and we officially changed our approach to managing ACE, and it officially became a product for us. And that's kind of been like a whole new chapter for us. We realised that we needed to answer some questions about the product. We kind of realised that all of this stuff should have been done ages ago. We've had the design system for a few years now, and obviously we lived with it, we saw the challenges, and we've explored what the solutions were, but actually, winding all the way back, we were like, right, let's just go back and answer these questions. So really, if you're starting out with a design system, you should be asking what the goal of the design system is. What products does it solve? What problems does it solve? What problems does it solve for the organisation? And really, it's quite cool to have design systems. It's the big thing, and I think it's really important to step back before going fully into it and just actually understand what it's doing for your business. What does success look like? How do we measure success for it? Who are the users? How do they work? Who are the customers? What problems are we solving for the customers? Who are the buyers? How do we communicate the benefits to the buyers? And obviously the teams. Who are the teams and what are their priorities? There's loads of questions. That's a few, I think, of the really important ones that I would start with. And like any product, our design system has a set of personas who interact with it. And it's obviously really important to understand them because a product starts with who you're building it for. So for us at Ansarada, our customers are the leadership team. Our users are the product teams. We have our customers who are Ansarada's customers. And when we realised that we were building a product, our team shifted to reflect other product teams. And that was a big thing for us too. So it looks like any other team at Ansarada now. So the ones in red here, the new additions we had to the team in the last year, this year. We already had a team of developers, but now we have a product manager, we have a design lead, we have QA, and that's really helped us as well deliver more of a product. We also rebranded our team to Design Ops. That's a bit of a buzzword. It's still fairly new for us, but we're still figuring out our way with it. But currently what we deliver as a Design Ops team is we deliver a design system, we maintain it, we build tools to improve efficiency, and we share best practices across the organisation. And as I mentioned earlier, one of the reasons we identified for the lack of adoption was our core team not being able to keep up with the work that was required by the other teams. We couldn't quite get components ready sometimes in time for other teams' deadlines. Well, to address that, what we did was actually we opened up the design system and we opened it up to contributions. We encourage other teams now to contribute to it. It's more of an open source model. So that means that teams can just prioritise work. So if they need a component to be changed or to be added, they can build that and prioritise it in their own backlogs, their own sprints, and then we obviously assist them, collaborate with them, and respond to PRs. So I would use, this is a quote by somebody called Gina Ann, who works at Salesforce. Actually, I should say that was her diagram. She used that to illustrate the team model at Salesforce. It's an augmented version of something that was done by Nathan Curtis, who I'll share some more of his stuff later, but he's talked about design systems products for a while, so I'd check him out. So this is a quote by Gina, and I'd say that kind of describes how we work really well. So the design system informs our product design, and then our product design informs the design system. We make sure that everyone in the design ops team has experience in product teams and their code bases. So like I said, it's an internal product, all our customers are internal, they're here. And we can not just go as far as observing them, we can actually get right into their shoes. We can do their job and learn exactly how they work, learn exactly how they experience everything. And that really helps improve the ability to make good technical decisions and make good technical decisions and make sure it's easy to consume the design system. So collaboration is really important for us. We have various methods to facilitate collaboration and communication across the company, because it's interesting, with the design system team, you don't just communicate with each other, you're communicating across the whole company, because you need to work with teams, you need to work with everybody. So we have an open Slack channel that obviously then people can ask real-time questions, have discussions, and be engaged. We have weekly cross-discipline catch-ups. That's in a time that's suitable for all the time zones that we cover. We regularly discuss our roadmap in design and developer sessions. We write blog posts. That's something I got quite into recently, just writing blog posts all the time to try and spread the word, promote it, and encourage people to comment and write back to us. And obviously, as I said, we encourage pull requests, so we respond to those in 24 hours to make sure that they are successful. And we just generally talk to each other like it's, we're a friendly team and we want to work together, so that's good. And it's not just open to contributions from the developers and designers in product teams. We actually see our design system as belonging to everybody. So in the sense that we believe that everyone has a reason to invest in it, or at least understand it. So designers create our design language, so obviously they're heavily involved in owning the design system. Developers use and build the design system. Our product managers are customers, and they're prioritising the work that it's used for. We have our sales team, and so they're talking to their clients about the user experience that's created by this design system. And we have a client services team who provides support for the interface. We have a marketing team who communicate our work in the industry. And then we have a people and culture team who hire talented people, hopefully who want to work with a really good design system. So everybody has a reason to be involved, and obviously leadership team pay for it, so that's important too. So it's important to make sure it's widely shared, and like I said before, using wall space and using all the different mediums to share it and get people involved is really, really important. And so another thing that's improved our adoption is setting OKRs. We kind of always did, but now it's a lot clearer that we prioritise work that help achieve company goals. And like I said, it's helped I think, engagement and adoption, because everyone sort of sees how we're achieving company goals, and we're all sort of working towards the same thing. So you probably know what they are, but basically OKRs, it's a process to help companies and teams set and communicate and monitor goals. So they stand for objectives and key results. The objective is the goal you want to achieve, and then the key results are how you want to achieve it, like the measurements specifically. And so when you're thinking about OKRs for your team, you first need to be really clear on the company's goals. And so they're usually quite aspirational company goals, but there's something that everyone can get behind and connect to. And this is just an example of one of our company goals. So Ansarada want to combine their products into one platform and be the best-in-class Saas platform. And then, so what you can do is each team can then set their OKRs based on their different skill sets. So, the integrations team will have very different OKRs to our design system team. And so this is an example here from our team. So we provide a platform to enable product teams to deliver cohesive and consistent experiences. And then the key result for that is 100% of the components in products are served by ACE. Yeah. And so to do that, we need to track adoption of components. So we need to know in the product, which, or all the pages, we need to check that all of the components, whether they're in the system or not, and things like that. And also snowflakes is a new thing I haven't mentioned. In addition to overrides, we want to look at snowflakes. So which pages have got components that completely don't exist in the design system or anywhere? Should they be in the design system? Are they used by another team, or is it just used by one team? We need to track all of those things and make sure that everything makes sense. And like other product teams, we have a roadmap, which again we always did, but it's a lot clearer now. Our roadmap communicates the outcomes we want to achieve to meet our objectives and deliver value to the business and to customers. Our items are split into 3 columns now, so we say what we're working on now, next, and future, and we don't really commit to dates. But what it does do is it's really important to us to let the product teams know what we're working on so that they can plan ahead, especially when we're releasing something that involves their time to consume it. It's really important that that's shared. We also have a separate space for documenting ideas for work, which are not in the roadmap, but they can be explored at a later date. I find, I found in the past anyway, when your customers are internal, they tend to have a lot of ideas, so I think it's really good to have a little space to document those. Features are largely driven by designers as well, so as a product manager, I have to work really closely with designers to get requirements for components. Obviously, a lot of the time, teams build their own components, as I just said, but perhaps there's a bug that isn't affecting a particular team, so If that's the case, we'll add it to our backlog, and if we don't get to it in time, then maybe the team who needs it will work on it. We sort of have to collaborate with all the teams and organise how we're going to get that done. Developers inform requirements too. Of course, as I said, familiarity of technologies and tooling improves adoption, so there's a lot of things to be across with this. So I just mentioned features. What do I mean by design system features? This is something we sort of, I think fairly recently started using this term in the design system. But they're components, they're design assets, design tokens, they're just any tangible output of the design system that delivers some customer value. So we also adopt product processes like more frequent release communications company-wide. So that's really important for product managers and our marketing team to plan ahead for changes to the interface. As I said, product teams need to know what's coming so they can prepare for that, but also for marketing, like if there are changes to the UI and things like that, our marketing team need to know. We release frequently, like multiple times a week in small chunks. This actually accommodates the different priorities of the different teams because then they can implement bits how they want to, like in the time that they have. So we find that teams prefer to be able to update like a few small changes at a time because it's just like a couple of hours out of their sprint rather than like 3 days or something. And marketing to product teams is a huge part of the role. So you have to get to know the product teams, you have to get to know their roadmaps, their release dates, their priorities. Developers and designers and PMs all need to know different things about your design systems. So you're going to talk to your PM about something completely different to the developer on that team. So, you know, the PM's not going to care about like some NPM change or update, whereas the developer will and things like that. So it's really important to be able to communicate the right things to the right people, speak the different languages of different people. And then as a general habit, I tend to blog a lot, as I said before, make sure that there's a lot of awareness of the system and evangelise it as much as possible, encourage people to give feedback and comment and get involved. And something I mentioned earlier was, somebody, Nathan Curtis from 8 Shapes. He, as I said, he's got a Medium, whole Medium publication of all of his all of his product posts. He's got so many ideas, it's really good. I really recommend checking it out. And we've used him to inspire our product principles here. So we've got 3. Success is measured by adoption. That's kind of been a bit of a theme here, but like it doesn't matter how great and fancy the design system looks, it doesn't really mean anything unless products use it, so that's a key principle for us. And community. So we collaborate with teams and empower them to use and evolve the system with us, as I mentioned. And products set their destinies and ACE equips them to realise that. So ACE exists to improve efficiency and consistency and front-end quality, but what we don't do is we don't tell product teams what they need to build. We just help them actually build it, like give them the tools to build it. And like any other products, we have a vision for our design system. We have an idea of what success looks like. We have a plan to get there. And as I said, the last 2 quarters we've really focused on trying to improve adoption, and I feel like we've nailed that now. So our next steps are really to try and finish building a world-class design system. Hopefully, in a few months we'll be back here. So we'll have someone else in the team, not me, someone else to talk about how we've moved it forward towards a world-class design system. So I've put a few bullet points as like a bit of a checklist of the overview that we went through to get our design system into a product. So I hope you can do the same with some of these points, and I have posted it on the speaker deck. So if you want to do this yourself, or if any of this looks like it's applicable to you, if you have the same challenges, then feel free to go and have a look and get these. Thank you.